definitely watch it. And even if you were here, you might want to refresh your memory of it. Because I didn't really plan to give the most important lecture right after Halloween, but it just turned out that way. And so it's pretty important for the next part that you understand it. But I'm going to come at some of the issues from a slightly different perspective today. So I want to do it this way. So we've got our familiar picture, right? And it's really just very simple, but get it in your heads. You'll find that you can maneuver. You can actually do some thinking as opposed to just regurgitating stuff. So we've got theoretical, in the rational part, or Kant calls this the noumenal part. And then we've got the non-rational part. And that's in here somewhere. And then we've got, well, somewhere, the determined part. Now we've got the free part. And we understand that without the free part, there's no ethical role for ethics to play in our lives, right? Everything's determined. So that's the basic scheme for all the three thinkers in a way. It's just that in Plato and Aristotle, you don't get much about the free and the determined, right? But for Kant, you do, and I hope that you understand that part of the impetus for the worry about determinism comes on the one hand from physics, the developments of Newton, and on the other hand from worries about the problem of evil that are specific to the notion of an omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent God that are Christian. So you've got this sort of pincer-like pressure on the agent, right? On the one hand from physics saying, hey, everything's determined, and on the other hand from Christianity that says everything is determined, God is responsible for all the evil stuff in the world. Put those two together, what you get? Well, a pressing need for some area of freedom in our lives. So now what we're going to do is, so that's the picture of the agent. And all we're going to do is, so add a few agents and see what happens when we press the question that Kant raises of, oh, what's a moral reason? So how are we to understand? So we want, morality's got some hold on us. We all agree to that in some way or another. Well, how can it have a hold on us if everything's determined? What's the locus of the hold? Where does it, and what kind of hold does it get on us? So let's look at a couple of agents. So we've got, this is one. We're just going to have three. They all have the same structure. So we have three agents. And the requirement that Kant thinks moral reasons have is that they apply to all rational agents. So anyone who's got this kind of structure in their souls, right, or in their minds, is subject to moral constraints. So as we saw that last time, right, thou shalt not kill, right, or don't lie, they apply to everyone, every rational agent, regardless of what they want. So what we're going to do is say, well, how can that work? How can they get a hold on you independently of what you want? And so what we want to do in each case is we want to pull out of the agents right, their famous motivational sets. And in this case, it's going to be a bunch of stuff. I'm going to call them desires, but they can be anything that goes in the motivational set. For this part, we're going to call them desires. This would be just desire one. So desire one is the contents of the emotional, the motivational set of agent one. In other words, we can do the same over here. This is the motivational set of agent two, and it's got desire two in it. And this one is the motivational set of agent three, and it's got so let's just take a very simple case. Agent one is only one desire, the desire for a hamburger. Agent two has only one desire, the desire for a spinach salad. And agent three has only one desire, the desire for a milkshake. That's the only motives these three agents have. Now, right? So that's it. I've told you the whole story. What do they want? A milkshake. What do you want? A spinach salad. What do you want? A hamburger. Anything else? No. So now, let's see. Thou shalt not, don't tell lies. Now, how is that going to get a grip on any one of these agents? So as the thought would be, well, don't lie, but I want a hamburger. How is not lying going to affect or relate to my desire for a hamburger or a milkshake? It seems like it just doesn't. So the only way it could apply would be this. Oh, if I tell them I want a hot dog, lying with them when I want a hamburger, my chances of getting a hamburger go down. So of course I've got another kind of reason. Kant calls this a hypothetical reason, a hypothetical imperative. I've got this. If it turned out that not lying was a means to my end, then I'd have a reason not to lie. If it turned out that not killing was a means to my end. So in this way, we can have one way that, so way A, that moral reasons could apply even to these agents. Moral reasons being things like don't lie. We'll just keep a nice simple one. Don't lie, right? One way it could get a hold on all three of these agents, right, as a means to, right? But notice that, right? So if I could show you that not lying really contributed to your getting what you want, then that would be good. It would apply. But notice that it would apply only as long as you have that desire in your motivational set, right? So, right, whether or not you will lie or have a reason to lie, all depends on your motivational set. So, for example, imagine that you go to the strange restaurant where they never give you what you order. If you want to get the hamburger, you always have to order the hot dog. It's a perverse restaurant, right? They just don't like to give the clients what they want, right? So, yeah, they say, what did he want? Hamburger, give him a hot dog. What did he want? A spinach salad. Give him a milkshake. Right, and they just, right, it's a weird place. But as soon as you figure out that they're kind of wired up a bit strangely, you can get what you want, right? You say, I'll have the hot dog, please. Give him the hamburger, right? Now you've got a reason to lie. Whether or not you'll lie or not just depends on whether or not lying is a good way to get what you want. And it can be sometimes and can't be other times, and it all just depends on the way the world is. But moral reasons are not like that. Moral reasons are supposed to apply to you always, everywhere, no matter what you want, right? So that won't work. So if we go with way A, right, that fails. That fails to give us the kinds of moral reasons we want. Okay, so how could moral reasons that are more demanding than just means to ends get a grip on our three agents? We saw last time that there is a way, right? And it's very clever. Right? So one of the things that these, in addition to having motivational sets, one of the things that these agents do, and we'll just fix with this one, they take the stuff that's up here, the stuff in the rational part, and they apply reason to the motivational set. They apply reason. So look what I did. I wanted a hamburger. I was in the counter responsive restaurant, so I thought if I order the hamburger, I definitely won't get it. So I should order the hot dog. I did a bit of reasoning to tell me how to get what I want in a strange world, right? Oh, reasoning, means to ends reasoning. We all do that. Even the most, right, no matter what our motivational set is, the motivational set of a rational agent includes working out the best means to your ends. We're not like the dog. The dog just sees the food and goes for it, doesn't reason, in this case anyway, very simply, doesn't reason about it. But we often do reason about how to satisfy our means, right? I see the hamburger, I want it. I see you going for it. You're a wee bit closer than I am. I jump and trap your legs, you crash to the ground. I quickly stomp on your head and grab the hamburger. It's a competitive, nasty world out there, and so this is a good way to get a hamburger when there's competition. Or, if I happen to have my Uzi submachine gun with me, I can take the American way and just shoot the hell out of you and then get the hamburger for myself. I'll probably kill a few bunch of other people along the way just for the hell of it, just in case they might come for my hamburger, right? It's not funny. We've had a recent tragedy of this sort, but you think at some point, isn't somebody going to think, so I saw it today, which I really liked. It's not, our beloved president said, it's not about guns, he said. It's about madness. And you think, I thought it was about madness and guns. I mean, you could be mad, but you won't be able to shoot anybody unless you happen to be mad and have a gun, right? Come on, give me a break. Okay, so, it's not about, it's one of my favorite. It's not about, okay. All right, you see the issue? Okay. Now there's another interesting one, which is not, when you apply reason to your motivational set, one of the things that can happen is that, so we're going to take what kind of reason, we'll pull out reason out, and we'll have means ends, or instrumental reasoning. So I did a little bit of instrumental reasoning, and I thought, Frank is going to get the hamburger before I do. Why don't I shoot him and get it first? Or, less bloody-mindedly, I tackle him and get there first. So I do a little bit of reasoning. And I do that little bit, that kind of reasoning a lot, right? And actually I found I'm very good at it. And I kind of enjoy it. So when you tell me you want a hamburger, I say, hey, let me help you with that. I can tell you how to get it. I'm really good at this. Listen, first, right, get a machine gun. No, just in case Frank tries to get the hamburger. No, I tell you how to solve your problems. I set up in business as a problem solver. You've got an end, and you want the means to it, you've come to the right place. I can tell you how to get good means to your ends, right? I can tell you how to do it. I actually enjoy it. Now what has happened is that my means ends reasoning has entered into my motivational set. I don't just apply it to my motivational set, it's now in my motivational set. So you tell me, hey, you know what? There's a party tonight, and guess what we're going to be doing? Well, at one party we could go to, we're going to be eating hamburgers. But at the other one we're going to be figuring out really clever means to get a hamburger. Which one do you want to go to? I want to go to the really clever means ones. Why? Because I'm really good at that. I just love eating hamburgers. okay, they're 10 a penny, but figuring out really good ways to get them in complex situations, I love doing that, right? So now what's happened is, you've got means ends reasoning as an end. You're into it. You love it. It's great. It's better than playing the piano. It's better than hamburgers. It's better than anything else that was in your motivational set before, or just as good. You just love doing it for its own sake. Well, we know there are people like this, right? They set themselves up as advisors and so forth, and they do this stuff. And in fact, we even do it just for fun. We puzzle solve, because it's great fun to puzzle solve. People actually get crossword puzzles, books, and do them, right? And they do because they love solving puzzles. Well, this is just puzzle solving applied to atoms. Okay, so notice your motivational cell is just ratcheted up by a very simple means, but there was a little wrinkle, which is the way that means ends reasoning got into your motivational set was via pleasure. Right? You've got to enjoy it. So we all have to do it. Some of us love doing it, but other people just want the hamburger. They would willingly outsource their means ends reasoning, and in fact, they'll outsource it to you if you're willing to do it for them, right? They say, oh man, I really want a hamburger, but it's so hard to get one in this town, right? And you say, hey, I can help you with that. They say, there's even an app for it, right? You just go, boop, and it says, go left, go right, go left, go right, give the guy $1, you get a hamburger. It's not a very good one, but you know, still, for $1, what can you expect, right? That's outsourcing your means ends reasoning, right? You just don't want to do it. You want the results, but you don't want to have to go through the whole damn thing, right? Okay. So, but if you enjoy it, different story. It goes into your motivational cell. Okay, so that's one. Now there's another thing. So part of your means ends reasoning, part of this reasoning goes to, now this diagram's getting a little complicated, but don't worry. There goes theoretical reason, and it goes in here. And how does it go in there? Well, look, okay? So imagine that you go to the new world, not the place where they've got McDonald's on every corner and getting a hamburger is a breeze, but the place where, as yet, they don't even have cows. They don't even have meat, right? You've gone to Mars or somewhere, and you know, there you are, this little happy American bunch of people who want to have a hamburger, and you think, how the hell are we going to get a hamburger up here? They don't even have cows. I said, okay, here's what we have to do. So we've got to send some cow embryos up here, right? We can send cows, they're too damn big to send, but we can send some cow embryos, and you know, we know how to grow them up in test tubes and turn them into cows. And then we've got to find a way to feed them, whether we can't feed them grass, there isn't any grass. We're going to have to get artificial, cow food sent up. We're going to have to grow it into the... What are we doing? Big pile of science, right? Theoretical reasoning, that's quite, though we're doing it because we're doing some means ends reasoning. We could, right, pull it out of the means ends reasoning and think, hey, you know, this is a hard and interesting thing. And it's all right, we're discovering how the world works. How do you get cows in a land where there are no cows? How do you feed them in a land where there are no grass? But what's essential to getting a cow? Could we just grow meat? I mean, man, do we really need to grow the cow and feed the cow and kill the cow and age the meat? Isn't there a quicker way? Couldn't we just grow meat? Hey, that's an interesting idea. Like people have it when are doing it, right? You don't have to kill anything to eat meat anymore. You can just grow up some meat. You know, in the meat jar. Right? And how did we get there? Well, hey, you know Frank over in the next pod? You know Frank? Well, you know he's kind of weird. He doesn't care about means ends reasoning. You know, he's not interested in solving puzzles that lead to something. He just wants to know how the world works. He's a great guy to go to if you've got a problem that of the form. How do you make artificial meat? He doesn't like meat, he doesn't eat meat, he doesn't want meat, but he loves those kinds of problems that aren't means ends, but about how is the world all put together? So you can see that when we start doing some instrumental reasoning, we also can often need to do some theoretical reasoning. We may, for example, have to work out a mathematical theory in order to plug it into the right bit. This is what happens when we think, you know what would be really cool? Is to put a man on Mars. Right? Wow. But, you know, that involves, look, see, this thing's revolving, and we're revolving, and first there's all the astronomy that you've got to do. Then you've got to figure out the trajectory of rockets that can travel over a very long period of time, and then go into the orbit around Mars, and then send them. It's very complicated. And so someone says, yeah, we don't really have the mathematical theory to do that yet. I said, oh, okay. Go to Frank in the pod over there. He loves this kind of stuff. You know, it's a little weird. And he just does it because it's cool math, right? He's not interested in getting a person onto Mars. He's just interested in figuring out how these kinds of trajectories work. So once we're there, right, so now we're doing a big load of theorizing, and someone says, you know, what's great about this theorizing? It actually helps you to understand yourself and your position in the world. We finally actually know the answers to some questions about ourselves that are not of any instrumental interest. Like, hey, they're just intrinsically interesting problems to some people who, once they get in touch with them, get hooked on them. So theoretical reason can come into means-ends reasoning, right? And then, right, so here it is, go blah, 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 into means-ends reasoning, where it's part of your means-ends reasoning, right? But then it comes out via pleasure again, because you enjoy it, and it goes right in here. So if somebody says, hey, it was, okay, Frank, you were working out the orbitals, you were doing all that stuff about growing the meat, that's really good. What are you doing now? He said, no, I'm just doing this pure stuff, and it's got no applications whatsoever, right? It's of no practical interest. It's irrelevant to all practical problems. And you say, don't waste your time on that, Frank. I mean, we need you to do some other things. He says, look, I'm not interested in you and your damn meat and your orbits and so on. This is much more interesting. Just go to hell, leave it alone. Frank has now become a pure theoretician, right? Interested simply in understanding because he really likes doing it. It's entered his motivational stuff, right? And you see how those things can enter our motivational stuff. You with me? So it's really cool, isn't it? So you start in one place and then you realize that you can kind of keep going and add to it. And now we're essentially where Plato and Aristotle are, right? What's the best pleasure? Well, you just look to see, right? You have a measuring device. That's the person who's tasted all of them. And that person tells you that, you know what's the really good one? It's the contemplative one. It's the theoretical one. The other stuff is good. The next best is the practical reasoning means to ends. That's really good too. And the others, that's okay, but not nearly as pleasant as those others. Those actually eating hamburgers and stuff. And now you're in the eudaimonistic realm of practical reason that says, well, practical reasons are much broader than, say, someone like Thrasymachus thinks. He just thinks that your practical reason, your motivational set, is exhausted by what you would do with the ring of Gyges. It's just the kinds of things that if you had the ring of Gyges, you would do. Steal, you'd go take other people's women, you'd take their food, you'd take their stuff. Appetite would drive the whole machine, and the ring of Gyges would ensure the means. There's nothing like this, though. You could really get to like using the ring of Gyges just for its own sake, right? Of course, that would be stupid, right? You just want it for these other things. So we've seen that Plato and Aristotle's response, in a way, to the narrow motivational set person like Thrasymachus is to say our motivational set is in fact much broader than that. Not everyone's, but lots of people's motivational set. And we can see how it's intelligible that that's so. But if we take this means, right? So we've got means to an end, and then we've got the pleasant end. So that reasoning becomes an end, not just a means to an end. That's what we've been, the story we've been telling. So now we've got two loci, two locuses for reasoning in our motivational set. One is as a means to an end, which we find enjoyable, and the other is, right, as an end, in the case where we do theoretical reasoning. I'm sorry about the opaque object that some idiot decided to put in front of the blackboard. What can I do about that? Let me write down here. Okay. All right. Just stand up if you can't see it, but anyway, there it is. Right? It's a thought. So there, now we've got that. But notice that, what do we get out of this? Well, we got moral elitism. And that's roughly where we got to last time, up from a different angle. We got moral elitism. Why do we get moral elitism? Wow, man. So go to Frank, and if moral reasons are theoretical like reason, he's motivated to do it. But go over to Jim, who's into hamburgers, and outsources even his instrumental reasoning, they don't get any grip on him. His motivational set is Thrasymachia. And that means that moral reasons won't get, as anything other than means to ends will not get a grip. And that means that they only get a variable grip. They only get a grip when they further as ends, which is only occasionally, not always. Jim will lie to you to get a hamburger, if lying to you to get a hamburger is the best way to get a hamburger. And if you say, you know, Jim, you should never lie, he'll just do this. Whatever. But I'm not going to be taking that advice, you understand. If the best way to get a hamburger is lie, Jim is going to lie. Okay. See with me? Now, this is eudaimonism. And the problem is moral elitism. Why? Because now moral reasons only get a grip on an elite, on people whose motivational set has come to include reasons of the first of the instrumental sort and then of the theoretical sort. And Kant says that's a failure. That's the problem with eudaimonism. So what he says is, in one of those sharper comments about eudaimonism, he says, it's not a moral theory at all. He says, it's the euthanization of morality. Why? Well, you see why. There's no ground in it at all, no basis in it at all for what Kant thinks we all think moral reasons are. Reasons that apply to all rational beings. There's no ground for them at all. So that's the big problem, moral elitism. And Plato and Aristotle are not unaware that it's an elitism. They say, well, this is what the best people are motivated by. What about hoi polloi? What about ordinary people? Look, you just have to drive them to it with whips. I mean, they don't see the intrinsic good of it. They'll just do it if you make the costs of not doing it high enough in their own terms. So here's Jim. You say to Jim, I know you're into hamburgers, Jim, but never lie. And Jim says to him, well, I won't lie if that's the best way to get a hamburger, but if it's not, if lying is the best way, I'd be an idiot not to lie. And then you say, you do know about the thought police, don't you? The one who always catch you if you lie, and then take away your hamburger? You know those guys? I've just given Jim a reason never to lie, right? Wait, there from the beginning, right? It was just that all I had to do was make lying not the best means to his end. Well, what's the police force for and the legal system and all that? It's an imperfect thought police, right? It just comes in to say, were you thinking of committing a crime? You were? Do you see that? Right? That's it. And so what you think is, yeah, but they're not thought police. Come on. They're imperfect things. You can get away with it still, right? So Jim just think it's like this. Jim says, yeah, but you can turn that off. You know the thought police? You know, they work on this big computer system with cameras and everything. But actually, the guy in the next pod, he actually knows how to shut that system down. Every time you want to lie, just tell him first. He shuts it down. You lie. He turns it back on. That's what our police system is like, right? It's variable. It's not perfect. But that's the idea. Now, Plato and Aristotle say, most people will only be moderately compliant with morality. They'll, for the most part, because they're afraid of getting caught and punished, they will follow it. But occasionally they won't. And that's as good as it's going to get for them. Right? They don't see any intrinsic reason to do it. And so, when they can get away with not doing it, achieve their ends better that way, they'll try to get away with it. They'll be opportunistic, but cautious, right? Because the better the legal system, the better the police, the more incentives they have, the more risk they take when they break the law. Corrupt the system, and what happens? Doesn't take long for the corruption to spread. Why? Well, because nobody ever had any reason to do anything except the fear they had of getting caught. Once that fear goes down, or if the police themselves are corrupt, or the judicial system is corrupt, then all of that starts to fall apart. Okay, so Kant says, well, moral elitism, that's hopeless. We've got to be morally non-elite, because that's what morality requires of us. Right? Morality is not about an elite. Morality applies to everyone. Tom, Dick, and Harry. No matter how humble, no matter how exalted, morality applies to all. Everyone. No one should ever lie. Period. Full stop. That's a moral reason. So how do we get that to get a grip on our motivational stuff? We can see how elite reasons, eudaimonistic reasons that go beyond the Thrasymachia narrow group of appetites, can get a grip on eudaimonistic agents that are motivated by their happiness.
I was wondering, when you're talking about reason here, you're talking about...
Wait, I'm talking about what?
When you're talking about reason here, are you talking about normative reason or motivational reason? Because I see that in the Thrasymachia picture, they lack, like the non-elites lack motivational reason to abide by morality, but it isn't guaranteed that they lack a normative reason to do so.
Yeah, but what is the moral point of normative reasons that aren't motivational? If they don't give anyone, if they don't latch into the motivational cell in any way, then the fact that you've got them, those executively mute, it doesn't have any effect on your behavior. That's part of the problem. So part of the problem is, what we're going to do, what Kant is going to try to do, is he's going to try to get normative reasons to motivate. And you'll see that that's going to be very, so I'll show you how he's going to do it. That's what I'm going to do in the next little bit. So you're right, there's a problem, right? Kant wants these reasons not simply to apply to you, he wants them to be motivational, right? You're failing if you're not motivated by them, right? So we want to explain how that's going to work. So that's what Kant is going to do now is, now we're into the Kant's criticism, we've got that clear. What is Kant going to do to give moral reasons a more robust grip on agents of all stripes as long as they're rational? So how is Kant going to solve the problem of moral elitism? Well, he doesn't have much to work with, right? There's the little picture. Where is he going to put them? We've seen how you get stuff from up here to get into the motivational stuff if you're a eudaimonist. How do you get stuff from up here to get in there if you're not a eudaimonist? How do you get it in such a way that right? It must go in if this is part of it. Not just in some people, but in everyone, it must, right? So that's the problem. Now let's see how Kant solves it. So let's pull out, so now so that's everything prior to Kant, right? Now, on Kant's view of it, anyway. And now Kant says, okay, let's look at all of that. Well, we see we've got a devastating criticism of it, or an apparently devastating one. And as Kant keeps saying, from ordinary moral consciousness, from our own thought about morality, you can see there's something not good about it, right? Only some people have reasons to be moral. That doesn't seem like what we think, right? We think that everyone should be moral. Moral demands apply to everyone. So what Kant does, here's a way to think of it. So we're going to look at the rational noumenal part, naturally, because the rest is determined, right? So we're going to look at the rational and we're going to look at its theoretical part, and its practical. And the theoretical part is governed by absolute, as we saw last time, but I'm putting it back in now with this new version of the story, so to speak, is governed by absolutely necessary laws, those being the laws of logic as Aristotle hath taught them to us. That's what Kant thinks. So just as Newtonian physics is physics and the last word, as Kant thinks, so Aristotelian logic, so theoretical reason works by the laws of logic, which are necessary. You might say, gee, that looks bad for freedom. Necessary sounds like bad for freedom, right? And so there's theoretical reason, and it works, it's like just software, plug in the Aristotelian logic software, and all theoretical reason goes bubbling along, doing syllogisms, right? So that's the laws of logic which are necessary. And let me just move down there. And practical part, and now we've got a question. What does it do? What is it? What's practical reason? Or as Kant likes to ask it, what's pure practical reason? Right? We know what theoretical reasoning is, and we know what practical reasoning is as calculating means to ends. That's the story we had over here. What's pure practical reasoning? That's what, in a sense, Kant was going. That's where all the effort goes in. And that's quite ingenious. Well, let's see how it goes. Well, Kant says, okay, so, well, look, we don't have much to work with. We do know what theoretical reason is. It works according to those laws. We know what we want moral reasons to be. They've got to apply to everyone. So what we are going to do is to make the requirement that they apply to everything the thing that enables us to get a grip on what pure practical reasons are. So we have to say, okay, we know what they're supposed to do. They should apply to everyone. So what do they have to be like to apply to everyone? Kant just does this. He says, all you have to do when you think of any one of your reasons, the things you think are reasons, is ask yourself this: could they apply to everyone? So, right, you might think that this just sounds so harmless, but listen to it for 1 second. So here's Frank thinking about how to get a hamburger. And he thinks, by law, I'll get the hamburger. And then Kant says, okay, Frank, ask yourself this question. Would it be copacetic with you if everybody reasoned in the way that you just reasoned, if everyone said, when I want a hamburger and lying is the best way to get it, I'm going to lie. And Kant says, now think about what would happen if everybody followed that rule as the theoretical part follows the rules of logic. It would just be in the software. So in a way, you can think of it this way. Every reason has to be included in the software package that operates in every agent. In just the way that theoretical, the laws of logic, operate in the software package for every theoretical reasoner. Otherwise, they wouldn't be theoretically reasoning, because that's what theoretical reasoning is. So now we just ask this. In practical reason, we ask ourselves this. We say, right, would I be happy? Would it be rational, let's leave out the happy part, would it be rational for me to include that in every agent's software package? Okay, so the question so what we do to get practical reasons is we go, one, reasons for all practically because there must be that. So, two, include them in the logic. That's the software package. The logic of that's it. In a way, I've just told you the whole story. So every time you think, you look at what your actual reasons are. So you think, why am I doing what I'm doing? I look into my motivational stuff, and I see that I'm doing this. I'm lying in order to achieve my end. And I'm killing to achieve my end. Take anything and say, I'm doing this to achieve my end. And then say, okay, make that a law of practical reason. Make it so that agents must, that is just the way they must follow the laws of deductive logic. They must follow this one. That is, they must always lie whenever doing so will achieve their end. And all of them must do that. Because you're making it part of the logic of practical reason for every practical reasoner. And he says, you see, you won't do that. You won't agree to bring it in. Why? Well, let's take a nice simple case. So, when I want to win at cards, I cheat. Yeah? So, whenever I want to win at cards, I cheat. Make that part of the logic of card playing, so that everyone playing cards must cheat to win. And he says, you see, no one would play cards under a floor if that was part of the software package. Now, lying, he says, is just like cheating at cards, but it's in life. And he says, if that were so, nobody would believe another person, right? Because they would always think, but you're not constrained by the truth. You're constrained simply by whatever your ends happen to be. We might think of some notable political examples of this in operation in our world, who just seem to say whatever they like, regardless of what they said yesterday or the day before, or when it becomes politically worthwhile to do it. And of course, we all know people who are like this, right? And we don't trust them. Now notice that it's not this. You know, sometimes lie, sometimes it's part of your software package. Then whenever lying will at best achieve your ends, you will lie. You must lie. And Kant says, nobody would put that in there. It would be irrational to put it in because it would actually undercut the whole point of speech. A rational activity that we all rely on, that it's reasonable to rely on, the giving and getting of reasons and information, that would just fall to the ground. Yeah, that's the test, yeah.
I was wondering, there's some counterexamples like playing chess. You're expected to lie, and like playing chess or like playing poker, you're expected to lie. And lying seems like the only way.
No, you're not expected to lie. You're expected to deceive, right? And that's part of the point. That is, the point is, if you've got in poker, you have a tell. It's much harder to deceive in chess, but in a tell, right, where whenever you get a good hand, you do this, right? And other poker players study films of you playing poker, and they say, when he does it, and you think, oh, I've studied those films too, so I know you're going to think I've got a good hand when I do it, so I'm going to do that. When I don't have a good hand, you're going to be deceived, I'm going to win, right? That's the thought, and that's expected. It's not this. It's not that violates rules. That's part of what the rules allow. But in ordinary life, so remember that we're not claiming that Kant is right about lying. We shouldn't claim that because Kant's views on lying are preposterous. But right, there's different. But the point is that what he's thinking is not what should we put in there, but what's the test for what we put in there. So, and Kant thinks that some things fail the test, and we might disagree with him about that while we accept the test. So, it's much easier, I think, to see what the style of the argument is than it is to see what the content of the argument is. That is, what do we end up putting in the motivational set? So look at this. There've got to be reasons for all practical reasons. They've got to include them in the logic of practical reason. And this is often said, what's true is that Kant requires that practical reason be universalizable. Universalizable. Why? Well, look what I just did. I said, just as modus ponens, if P then Q, P, therefore Q, or not both P and not P, think of the laws of logic, deductive logic. The laws of pure practical reason are just like that, but with an added wrinkle. When you think about putting one into your motivational set, you have to think that it will go into everyone's motivational set. And you have to think, would it be rational for me to put it in everyone's motivational set? If it is, put it in. If it isn't, don't. So when you look at something that isn't your motivational set and ask, is it moral to be motivated by this reason to act on it? You just ask, would it be reasonable for me to have everyone reason in just the way that I did? Yes. So let's take, you with me? That's the whole of it in a nutshell. But of course, we need to look into the nut that's in the shell. So that tells us what we're to do. So take a little look at, and Kant calls these things maxims. So why do we apply this? He says, well, everybody can do this. It's very simple. This is the moral compass that's available to every rational agent, however humble. It escapes elitism. It's very easy to use. Everyone can do it, right? That's how it escapes elitism. So how do you work it? Well, you look at your maxim. And what is your maxim? Your maxim is, well, roughly speaking, it's your plan of action. So look at your plan of action. Well, these are vague notions, and Kant has the issues about just what a maxim is have exercised Kantian pretty much ever since Kant mentioned it. And I can tell you in a nutshell that no great progress has been made on trying to come up with a notion of maxim that makes Kant right. Yeah, that's the issue. So lots of clever people have tried to say, okay, well, if you really you know, see if the maximum should be this, but it should be this, and then I tried this, and they put that, and then you see, Kant is right. But, you know, not really going to work. But look at your maxim, look at your plan of action, right? And then ask yourself this, every agent must act. Yeah. So when I form my plan of action, I'm essentially doing this. Let you, for every you, also act on this plan of action. Right? So when I think, when I see an unattended purse in the library, I'll go through it, and if there's any money in it, and it's safe, right, I'll take it. Let you all do that too. What will happen? There'll be no unattended purses left in the library, right? Everyone will know that everyone will do this, so nobody will leave a purse unattended. It'll self-defeat, right? As Kant says, right, you see, you would never put that in you never agree to that. So don't you act on it either, because when you do, you're making an exception of yourself. You're saying, let the others, let me do this, but don't let the others. Let me lie when I can achieve mine, but don't let the others lie. Let me cheat when I can achieve my ends, but don't have the others cheat. I want to cheat when everyone else is honest. That's how I get my advantage. If everybody cheats, the practice just collapses, right? So I won't be law-abiding if others are not law-abiding, right? We're stupid, right? That's the point. So that's the way that Kant, and you have to admit, it is kind of brilliant, right? To sort of see that there's even a room to maneuver in the previous picture. It was already a kind of genius, and I think that we must acknowledge that it is. So that's the idea, and right? That's how you apply the rule. Now you're in the morality game, right? When you think about any of your actions, right? What is my maxim, what is my plan of action? Let it be everyone's plan of action. If the answer is I wouldn't let it be everyone's plan of action, I shouldn't put it in I shouldn't act on it either. That's the idea.
Sorry, it's probably a stupid question, but we're talking about motivational reasons
No, we're
here.
not there yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, so this is the point at which they're normative, right? Because this is what it is to be in the morality game. It's to apply this. Now, imagine me saying, yeah, okay, I get it. If I want to play the morality game, I've got to do that. That's a bit like if I want to play chess, I have to follow this rule. If I want to play poker, I've got to follow that rule. If I've got to want to deduce something validly, I've got to follow the laws of logic. I've got all that. I see that. If I want to do that, I've got to do these. But screw it, man, I don't want to do it. It doesn't have any grip on me. I don't want to play the morality game. Thank you. I mean, I really love it that all you guys want to play it. And I'm certainly in the business of trying to get you to see that you should. That's Thrasymachus and Thrasymachus's rulers. You guys, you've got to play by these rules, okay? Let me incentivize you, right? Why? Because I benefit when you do. Right? But if you think I'm going to play by those damn rules, you're out of your mind. Right? That's the motivational problem. So how do we get from norms? That's what it is to play morality. That's what it is to act on moral reasons. But how do I get, how do I incentivize you? How do I get you going to do that? And this is the way that Kant looks at this problem, and you can see why. So let's go back to our, yeah.
I'm sorry. I was just thinking about the purse example. I was thinking like, so you're acting on this logical rule of like, if there's a purse unattended, then I'm going to go through it.
Yeah.
If you applied that to everyone and then there were no purses left, wouldn't that logical rule still be like vacuously true? Because
Absolutely. But it would be, it wouldn't, right? It would not defeat it would not be the principle of action or plan of action of any rational agent. because there would be no purpose, right? It would apply, but what it would do is nobody would act on it, right? There'd be a plan of action, but it would be defeated by the fact that there were no purposes to go through. Yeah. So that's exactly right, it's true, right? Because what it's done is to arrange for the violation of its own conditions of application. And that's stupid, right? From the practical reason point of view, it's stupid to adopt a plan of action that you know is defeated ahead of time. And how do you know it's defeated ahead of time? Because you know that everybody is motivated to act on that one, and therefore, right, it's no longer got any space for you. Okay, so now, the question is, how does that get any agent to do anything? That's the question. So I see all that, but you see what I did in response, right? I said, yeah, okay. So if I want to be moral, and Kant says, no, you don't get it. This is constitutive of practical rationality. So, right, if you don't act, if you're not practically if you don't operate your practical reasoning part this way, you fail to be practically rational. You see, you're irrational, and that's bad, isn't it? And here's the response. The response is, yeah, I see I'm irrational in those pure practical terms that you're talking about, Emmanuel. I get that. But why should I care about being irrational in those terms? Yeah, look, notice that I'm not irrational in choosing means to my ends. I'm not irrational in liking to reason and stuff. I'm not irrational over here. I'm just irrational over in Königsberg, where evidently they do it that way. But you know, I don't like Königsberg. I don't want to go there. I don't want to do this. Why should, you're just calling me names. You're saying you're immoral. Yeah. You're happy to be immoral. Well, how about irrational? In your kind of irrational, I'm happy to be irrational, man. I don't see the point of it. Get it? Yeah. You're not cutting any ice with me. Right? And, right, what is the comeback? That's the challenge. Right? Somehow or other, I'm failing at something, but somehow or other, I don't care. And it doesn't seem to be an irrational disaster for me not to care. Why? Well, look, I'm theoretically rational. I'm really good at choosing means to my ends. I'm a correct evaluator of what gives me pleasure, etc. So it's not clear why I should do this. And the way that we can see this come for Kant, the way that we can see that Kant, that's the way I want to put it. Kant feels this problem. He can feel it, but he can't confront it. He thinks he can kind of feel it and kind of get out of it. Let me show you how you can see this happen in the groundwork. So we've got all this sorted out. Now we've got, right, eudaimonism. And it says, so I imagine Aristotle in Kant's seminar at Königsberg, magically having learned German, who raises his hand and says, excuse me, Professor Kant, I have a question. So, you know, see all this stuff? He's very clever. You know, it's really, I like it. You've made a good dialectical move. I don't really think you've solved anything yet. Let me explain why. So let me see if I get it. You know, I had to bone up very quickly on Newtonian physics last night, but I think I've got it. So, and of course I know Aristotelian logic, because I invented it. So, but yeah, so let me see now, let's take a very simple case of a plan of action. So I'm going to throw a piece of chalk up in the air and catch it. That's my plan of action. So I say, let anyone who wants to throw a piece of chalk up in the air and catch it do something like this, which I just, and Kant says, okay, got it? And Aristotle says, now, let me see if I understand you right. So all this thing, the arm going up, the chalk going up, the neural signals coming from the old brain cells, all that stuff, that's all determined. And Kant says, yep. And Aristotle says, well, how then do these moral reasons I thought were supposed to be like free will stuff? I don't really understand that, but I think I hear you. You think they've got to be in some sense up to us, I can't be being forced to do it, they've got to be in some sense free, okay, all that, otherwise morality wouldn't apply, it would just be vacuous. It would all just be determined, right, for everything. Says, okay, I got that. But look, the action is in the sphere of nature. When I kill you, something has to happen out there in the world that results in your death. These are all things out in the determined frame. So how do your practical reasons get a grip in the realm of nature? If they don't get a grip in the realm of nature, frankly, I don't see what point they have. And ethics is all about bodies moving through space and sticking spears in other bodies and eating hamburgers and, right? It's all, so even if something is going on up here, like this, but it disconnects to what's going on down here, I'm at a loss to understand how your ethics has anything to do with human actions at all. Could you explain that to me? And Kant says, yes. That's a good question. But I have an answer. And that answer is actum. What is that? Well, let's see. Let us take a look at, if you're not in this edition, but you are on some edition with the standard Kant numbers, it's around 414, just before 414, or page 24 of this, it's footnote 3. The dependence of the, you have to get used to Kant. The dependence of the faculty of desire on sensations is called inclination, which accordingly always indicates a need. The dependence of a contingently determinable will on principles of reason, however, is called interest. Contrast. Inclination is appetite, right? Interest is reason. Therefore, an interest is found only in a dependent will, which is not of itself always in accord with reason. In the divine will, no interest can be thought, because it always is in accord with reason. But even the human will can take an interest in something without thereby acting from interest. The former signifies practical interest in the action, while the latter signifies pathological interest in the object of the action. The former indicates only dependence of the will on principles of reason by itself, while the latter indicates the will's dependence on principles of reason for the sake of inclination. That is, reason merely gives the practical rule for meeting the need of inclination. It's instrumental. In the former case, the action interests me, while in the latter case, what interests me is the object of the action, so far as this object is pleasant to me. In the first section, we've seen that in the case of an action done from duty, regard must be given not to the interest in the object, but only to interest in the action itself and its rational principle. So don't look at the end, look at the action and then ask, what does the maxim pass the thing? Now, go on. I think there's another footnote. I can't find it. I'll find it by next time. But here's the response. It's that. It's the interest. So here's what Kant says. Right? He says, okay, so what we're looking at here, when we're looking at pure practical reason, right? We're looking at, as Kant says, simply the noumenal free will. Right? Oh. This all applies, so here's his answer. All that applies to the noumenal and free will, which God also has, and other beings. They necessarily act, their wills are governed by all this stuff, by necessity, because they are practically rational beings. But we have, in addition to our we have, an empirical will. That's our motivational self. We do have empirical wills, right? That's where our desires are. That's where the things that move our bodies are. And so Kant says to Aristotle, what you're asking me is, what's the connection between our noumenal will and our empirical will? How is it that stuff that goes on freely at the noumenal level can influence what happens at the empirical level? How does the divine, which is disconnected from nature, the divine part of me, which is disconnected from nature, move the material part of me, which is part of nature? Given that the material part of me is moved exclusively, it seems, according to the deterministic laws of physics. How can I, by freely willing something up in this free part, get anything to happen down here in the unfree part? And so Kant says, what you're asking me, Aristotle, is what's the connection between my noumenal will, which is free, and my empirical will, which is determined? How does the noumenal will influence the empirical will? And Kant's interest, that is, interest, which in German is better, Achtung. Now, let's give some of Kant's examples of Achtung and action. So he says there are two objects. Sometimes it's translated as awe. So there are two things that cause us to have awe. This, or Achtung, the starry heavens above, the objects of theoretical reason. Kant, Aristotle really likes this. He says, yes, that's what I like to theorize about too. Cosmology, astronomy, the divine, I'm with you there. So notice that you like that. He says, absolutely love it. Yep. Yeah, right. Call that Achtung, I'm with you. Sure. I feel that. Yeah. Now go down. Okay, he says, you also feel that for the moral law. So, Achtung in your empirical will tracks what happens in your noumenal will and does it. And then Kant says, it's awfully like your rational wish. Remember, you had this, remember I pulled it out and put a little circle around it? You have this wish thing that connects your, what goes on in your rational part to what you actually end up doing. He says, well, I have that too, except that mine connects the noumenal will to the empirical will. Yes? So think about it this way. Down here in Newton land, right, there is a causal entity that operates according to deterministic laws. And what does it do? It tracks what happens at the noumenal level. And when the noumenal will says, don't lie, this gives impetus to the empirical will not go on. It goes like this. So great. Don't. No. Right? Yes! Ha! Okay, you got it? So think of it as a little piece in the connection, right? You've got this software that, right, this is the interface module. This causes stuff to happen on your computer screen, right, that looks like words forming, right? When all that's going on down in the hardware and the software is a lot of zeros and ones, but up on the end comes an image. This is what gets from one to the other. Well, the action is a bit like that. It says, move your arms this way. So, is it okay to throw the chalk up in the air now? Or can I act on that thing? Test the maxim. You can universalize that. That's okay. The numinal will says that's okay, and actum goes, that's okay, and up goes the chalk. Free, determined, free, bump, right? So there's a free part, and the awe of the determined part feels for the free part that results in the determined. Got it? And Aristotle says,